But meanwhile, this was on Fox and Friends today. It was notable for a couple of reasons. One, it is an incredibly restrictive and disenfranchising law signed into, bill signed into law by DeSantis in Florida, Ron DeSantis. Two, it was part of Ron DeSantis's run for president in 2024. Mark my words on this.
Be afraid of that, by the way.
And be concerned.
He could be actually someone that makes some noise.
Three, it was one of the most egregious examples, unabashed examples of propaganda that one could imagine. This isn't just Fox News is covering the signing of this bill. DeSantis had excluded all local media from covering the signing of this bill so that Fox could have an exclusive. And it wasn't just we're covering this, we're actually building it into a segment. And so
no local outlets.
No,
even though this is a Florida bill, he's not the president of the United States, which would still be ridiculous going on national TV. This is should be for like local media should have access to.
Yeah, you can't trust that local fake news. You got to go to the multinational corporation owned by the Australian reactionary.
And let's be clear, the argument here is that we're doing this despite the fact that you're going to hear DeSantis say I don't know if Fox and Friends has an official job in the DeSantis administration, if they still refer to themselves as Fox guests in this hosts in this segment. But they say your 2020 election went off fine, but now we need to pull back from providing so much access during COVID. Well, why? We know why.
Because more Democrats voted by mail than Republicans in Florida.
And so DeSantis wants to show off his Trump bona fides by holding up his poster. So let's go to this clip. It really is stunning.
After the pandemic, Governor, a lot of people loosened up the rules because a lot of people didn't want to come out of the house. There were drop boxes, no excuse, mail-in balloting, and things to that nature. After years of struggling on Election Day and maybe extending it too long, most famously in 2000, you guys pretty much pulled it off flawlessly last time around, and you were able to get the results in. Now it's time for people to rein in and have a non-pandemic election. In over 30 states, they've made reforms. You're doing the same thing. What's going to be different about Florida's election in 2022? What are you about to sign?
So right now I have what we think is the strongest election integrity measures in the country. I'm actually going to sign it right here. It's going to take effect. So
there you go.
Bill is signed. And here's what it does. If you look, here's what it does. Now, we've always had voter ID. We're making sure we're making sure.
Do you hear what? Keep that image up there, because this is a little bit off point. Emma will tell you in a second, exactly what this does. But you hear Ducey say, "You came with graphics," and then he holds up a Florida leads on election integrity and transparency. The transparency is hilarious because literally they have shut out all of their local media from covering this.
Yeah, I know. We overuse the word Orwellian, but...
Exactly. But, I mean...
AKA Zuckerbucks?
Maybe I'm being a little conspiratorial here, but those colors on that graphic that Steve Ducey was like, oh, you came with your own graphics, are exactly the color palette, and every network uses a specific color palette. They have a style guide when they do graphics. Those are exactly the Fox News graphics. I mean, you can see how integrated it looks with the rest.
You are just you've lost your mind. I mean, that is just red, white, and blue. It looks like Bernie's font.
It might. I would be curious. I mean, since
they're sending a message to the radical communists.
Well, I just wonder if who did up that graphic. I mean, it is a Fox News exclusive, and it would be interesting if I was a reporter in Florida and I was a little annoyed. That would be my FOIA right there. Or I guess, yeah, it would be my FOIA. But tell folks exactly what he's signing there that he's so proud of.
So, right. I mean, the issue here is that, okay, as Fox just explained, nothing went wrong in Florida, but yet they have to overcorrect for something.
Got to rein it in.
Yeah, they've got to rein in something that they literally lead into the segment saying went fairly perfectly, I guess, during the presidential election the last time around. So what this does is the initial bill was supposed to ban drop boxes altogether. So the silver lining is that there still will be drop boxes in Florida, but there's tighter rules about where they can be. So they have to be at the official voting place, essentially, and there are limits on the hours where some drop boxes are able to be accessed, which will most likely prevent people who can't get out of work from voting from getting to the drop boxes. The boxes need to be staffed by an employee who's overseeing it, and when the box isn't staffed by an employee during official hours, there's going to be round-the-clock video surveillance of the drop boxes. It also just prevents what Republicans call ballot harvesting, which is this made-up term, essentially, or they've manipulated the term to sound a lot more evil, nefarious and evil than it is. They've limited, and the details, and I've read multiple articles, it hasn't laid it out quite yet about how they limit it, but it limits basically who is able to drop off someone else's ballot. So say it's an elderly person or a person who's poor, who doesn't have a car, who needs someone else to drop off their ballot for them. There are limitations on that. And now voters have to provide their driver's license, state ID number, or last four digits of their social security number when requesting a mail ballot, which is the same thing that you need to register to vote. And the other thing it does too, which I think is actually low-key a lot more destructive than, I don't know, the other parts that have been emphasized, is that it spreads out the votes on mail-in ballots, essentially. So oftentimes when you get a mail-in ballot, you'll have multiple elections on that ballot. They're dividing it up so that essentially you have to request multiple mail-in ballots, and that's just the start of it.
They're just all of these things are just roadblocks to what they say rein in. What are they reining in? They're reining in the number of people who are going to participate in the next election.
And I just want to add, it also took notes from the Georgia bill, which they ban the handing out of water within some sort of /food within areas of the ballot site. So it's all just an effort to make it more difficult, and it doesn't matter what those provisions are, essentially. I mean, yes, it does, but the fact that there's many of them just shows that they're trying to make it harder for specific people.